those of the host, guests, and callers who are responsible for their content and do not reflect the opinions of In Touch Radio or its staff.
I always feel some kind of way about this. In my head, I'm hearing, don't listen to these guys. But good morning, everybody. This is Attorney Clinton Paris, and you're live on In Touch News Radio.
Yeah, we're in the studio. Hopefully next year, In Touch, when FAMU come back to town, we'll do live from the stadium.
Now we're talking about
get a nice buffet and everything like that.
Yeah, that'd have been nice. But this is Attorney Clinton Paris, and he's live with Sweet Pea. That was on straight up the middle. Listen, my hope is that we can get Pete back off to the right side because he has been drifting left. If y'all been listening to the show for the last couple months, Pete been sliding further and further left. Last week, he almost sounded like a complete socialist.
No, I call it the way I see it.
In his weakness. But Pete, a lot of things happened this week. A lot of stuff. I mean, the litany of things going on. I know a soft spot for for you is law enforcement, and for those listening around the country, you know, we're located down in Tampa, Florida, the beautiful sunshine metropolis that it is. And today we have the big Florida A&M University game against my alma mater, the University of South Florida Bulls, Pete. I'm decked out. I got my hat on. For those listening, you can't see me, but go to Facebook. In Touch News Facebook page live. Look at us also on the In Touch News YouTube channel. I am sporting my USF shirt and my FAMU hat that I brought from the bookstore.
That's a nice one, man. They really stepped up the improvements on all the HBCU products. You know what I mean?
Well, that's that Nike sponsorship. I was up there picking up my daughter to bring her down for the game. I'm going to take her back tomorrow. I was so proud of her, Pete. She had a study group in chemistry yesterday at 5 o'clock. And my first thought was, I feel for the chemistry tutor whose social life is such that he has study groups at 5 o'clock Friday afternoon with out-of-town games going on. So I told her, if you go to study group, I'll come get you still. Did that.
Oh, yeah. You have to do that. You know, brothers, we step up.
Absolutely. So a lot of things going on. But the football game will take it. Look, I know you have a soft spot in violence in our neighborhood, crime enforcement. And this may be happening around the country with this now dealing with evictions. And in Tampa, we have a specific issue where in public housing, they're reporting arrests to landlords.
Well, you mean the city?
The city of Tampa. If someone gets arrested, if you're living in public housing, that's one thing. But it seems like this is a little broader initiative than just that. Maybe happening around the country in this situation. Your thoughts about this whole eviction situation?
It's a do and don't situation. It's a crazy. The program has been around for a while. Okay.
Explain the program. Explain what you understand.
The program is where apartment complexes or whatever volunteer to get into a program. It started, I believe, in Alabama. It gets into a program where you say, okay, I'm going to get in this crime-free program with the city of Tampa. And the city of Tampa, on arrest and everything, they notify the apartment complex owners or whatever and say, hey, Pete Edwards been arrested and charged with driving a suspended license.
And that's just an arrest. We're not talking about a conviction.
Right.
It's just being arrested.
Okay. So what and felonies too. Now they just changed it. I'm listening to some other shows coming in this morning. Thanks to Diane Harden and Orlando Goose, they still got some work to do because you got to balance it out. But what it basically was doing, and it had been doing it since 2013. Now some of the changes were forced after the article came out in the Tampa Bay Times, but to me, when you recognize that programs you got going for the benefit of the whole need some fixing, you don't wait till articles come out in the paper. And what happened is once the newspaper's been gathering facts and information and statistics from the police department for over 3 years now. So the bottom line is you as a police officer contact, let's say Anna, my landlord, in an apartment, say, hey, Pete's been arrested for driving on a
Pete's been arrested again.
Again. Now, the incidents, they were reporting incidents that did not take place on property of the apartment. But
now, why do you think that's relevant?
Well, because you can have You can have your son go into. I could have my son, let's say, go into Walmart and steal $100 worth of stuff. Back in the day, it would have been grand theft, and then of course they just changed that rule.
Right.
But anyway, he goes in. The Walmart is 10 miles from my house, but TPD arrests him and all, and then they're notified, hey, this kid whose parent lives there got arrested. All right, the landlord can use that, and they have used that. Say, okay, we're going to evict you. It's like under this moral turpitude clause, or however they want it.
So let's start with what is the premise of even having a program of this nature?
The premise, it originally designed was to help crack down on crime that was occurring within those complexes.
And mostly
see,
we're
that's
talking
the
about
difference.
public housing complexes.
Public housing, or a lot of
Subsidized housing,
Well,
things
yeah,
of that
that's
nature.
the thing. So, if it's occurring on the property, yes, you have to cure it or do something with it. I heard Leroy Moore on another show this morning talk about Tampa housing efforts beyond the one strike thing to try to save people. All right. The issue when they found out 90% was black, and then they discovered, well, wait a minute. These apartment owners was using those stats before a person was even found guilty in a court of law.
Just arrested and charged.
Yeah, just arrested and charged to kick it out. Now, I heard Brian Hill coming in this morning, who's the captain of TPD. Nice guy. I've seen him come up through the rank. He said the police department does not encourage landlords and apartment management to evict people. Well, he kind of straddled the fence there. That's the official policy.
Okay.
But I can tell you over the years, and it's nothing new, that you've had police officers on their own and push apartment owners and all to evict people just on arrest. Now, where the catch comes in is that these officers will say, hey, we can't do it. Don't subpoena us. But we think this guy Pete is a badass. Excuse me for that. Well, if I had to put Jack in front of it, would have been all right for the radio, right? But anyway, they'll say that, and they'll say, well, we need to get him out. Y'all need to get him out, and whatever we can find on him. He's been arrested, or his son been arrested, all the way from the complex, all the way. So landlords would do that to try to get an eviction. All right. So they file an eviction notice on moral turpitude clause or whatever they get from the city of Tampa or any police department. What happens, and as a lawyer, a lot of times in county civil court, it's a pain to say it, but a lot of times over the years, I've observed certain judges that whatever the police say, they believe it. And they'll sign off. If the residents don't show up to contest the eviction, well, then it's almost like a robo-signature, so they didn't show up, so the court just signs the eviction notice and go ahead. But the other part of this piece that have not come out in the newspapers yet is that if I'm in the middle of the lease and they decide that on legal grounds they better be careful trying to evict me, especially on my son's misdemeanor or on my own misdemeanor, what they will do is they will wait till it's time for a renewal.
Okay.
And then they'll run the once a year background criminal check on your renewal.
Or we just don't have to.
Or we just don't have to. And see, that is the real problem. You cannot have police officers, regardless of where it is, being used or being in conspiracy with or whatever, and say, okay, you need to get rid of this guy. Now, I paid my rent all the time. Whatever the case may be, you had no problems with me on the property. But because I might have got arrested for a nonviolent first-degree misdemeanor, second, or my son, when you do the background check coming into the new year, where it's time for me to renew my lease, then the apartment says, well, we choose not to renew your lease. And legally, they can do that.
Right, yeah.
And that's not right. And then you got this, I tell you, we urge our listening audience to listen to all of the Watch City Council coming up Thursday. I talked to Chairman Goose about it. And I talked to some city officials about it. They made some quick adjustments they had to, and I enjoyed Dan Hart and Orlando getting that done. But what you got to look out for coming up, the most egregious thing, when you read the Tampa Bay Times article, the police made some mistakes. But what was egregious to me, and you probably think so as a lawyer, they quoted the security director for the Tampa Housing Authority. He says, well, now this is a statement that he made to the Times. Well, we know that some of them think because basically they've been an informant, that's going to save them. And we don't care whether they basically got convicted or not, or even been an informant, or even if the court found them not guilty on other stuff. We do our own investigation, and then if we feel reasonable suspicion. So I'm thinking as a black man coming up through real hard time segregation, I'm walking down the street, and the police don't like the way I look. So all of a sudden I stop by a stop sign in front of the store, and then I get busted for loitering and prowling. And you know that's how they used to do real brothers and sisters all the time. But to hear a guy, okay, if the feds have a one strike you out policy, fine. If Tampa Housing has their other thing where they try to work with people and all, that's good. But for a security director of the security to come out, and it's almost like he's smirking, that says, hey, we don't care what. You could be an informant to help clean up. This guy, Pete Edwards, was an informant to help clean up where he lived at and help us solve other crimes. If after everything else, if I go to sleep and wake up the next morning and Pete got to go, he's going to go. Now, who in the hell would put a comment like that out in the paper? Because you know what? If you're the lawyer of me, and you know in lawyer-client privilege conversation that I was an informant to help clean up my neighborhood, his comments exposes me in a way because he learned from the state attorney's office or somewhere that me was an informant. And so when people start looking at what happens around in certain areas of Robles Park or whatever, then they say, oh, it was Pete. So you expose an informant, and then you give him the finger when he's trying to help clean up his thing. So they got to fix a whole lot of things in it. People, as I've always said, we got to tighten down on crime. It's like today we.
All right, wait, hold on. But okay,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna let you get away with that easy, Pete, because it didn't sound like the administration of this whole idea and the premise we start with is getting criminals removed from public housing or out of certain vulnerable housing situations. That's what the premise starts with.
Right.
And that's the process starts with the people being arrested. I agree with you. I have concerns about that being the foundation for moving forward with people losing their housing, because that's not enough to me.
Well, especially before they just change it away from the property itself. See,
well, that's okay, but hold on for a minute, because you could have, and we have this right here, major drug people living in public housing, but they're dealing and doing their crime over in town and country or some other area like there is in most cities, and they're using the public housing as their base of operation.
I've seen that.
But they don't do any crime in that area. So I just think that there's a balance,
Well, we got to have the balance. The question is, how do you see? My thing is, if we properly do transparency as we continue to tweak the good programs that's going to make our community better, you got to have regular meetings. We shouldn't have to wait for whatever purposes the newspaper on facts.
Well, that's the investigative part, because you're not going to get the information about things that are being done wrong in community by the government without the newspaper.
But that's why we clean it up. Here it is, 3 weeks later, nobody has turned in the information on this young girl 4 years that was killed. So it's an issue with that. I think in Tampa, it's kind of embarrassing in a way. But
Tampa's just like the rest of the country. We're no different than
we should
what's
be
happening
better.
in America. We should be the best that we can be. But I think around this country right now, Pete, we have this issue with how do we balance criminal enforcement, communities working with the police, law enforcement, those kinds of things.
We got to be honest with each other. In other words,
let's be honest then. This whole program is designed to clean up public housing communities.
But they went beyond the premises of they used. You cannot. Can you imagine me being kicked out or urged to be evicted because I'm driving with a suspended license? Really?
Well, let me say this though.
Really?
That's not reason why that person being evicted though.
Well,
Well,
they've
you-
had some
stop
cases.
for a minute though. But
Well,
if you
they've had
would've-
some cases.
yeah, but if you dig in that person's background, you probably find out they've been wreaking havoc for the last 7 years over there. Hold on to that, because we got a whole list of things to go down
Oh,
with you
yeah, I
people.
want to
We're
get
gonna
with that Haitian business.
let's get it
too.
on then. Okay, good.
And
We're
we'll
gonna
bring y'all an update on other stuff.
we're gonna take a break. We'll be right back.
Am I
and
supposed to sing before this
don't
break
do
come
that.
on?
We got In-Touch News
Well,
Radio, Reality Radio. Everybody can be a stop.
Let's
We'll be right back.
reminisce of
y'all.
happy hour last night. What kind of happy hour last night? What kind of happy hour last night? What kind of happy hour last night? What kind of
Did they throw some over at 7 and Grow last night?
You're listening to Tampa Bay Tammy
Your girlfriend.
on In Touch Radio.
In Touch Radio.
Call Ricky. Ask Ricky. You need medical or a lawyer? I got the man to do the legwork for you. We tried the other ones before, so believe we hunted down 813-248-6300. Everything gon' be okay. Call Ricky, he coming. He taking care of state of Florida. Grab a pen or sundown 184-361 Rick. That's 184-361-425. Never word from the point forward, just recline. Just ask Ricky, plus your boy statewide. Just in case you missed it, I'ma tell you one more time. 184-361 Rick. Call Ricky, ask Ricky, is a legal medical referral service. The doctors and lawyers in our network are trained in handling auto injury claims and getting you the best medical treatment and recovery. Dial 1-844-361 Rick. That's 1-844-361-7425. Ricky. Ask Ricky.
You've been injured, you deserve help from an attorney that knows how to handle your injury claim. This is Attorney Clinton Paris from the Law Office of Clinton Paris. For over a decade, I worked for insurance companies, and now I use that knowledge and experience to help people that have been injured. For a free consultation, call me, Attorney Clinton Paris, at 813-413-7924. That's 813-413-7924, or at parislawoffice.com. At the Law Office of Clinton Paris, we take the pain out of being hurt. Offices, Riverview.
Jacobs Production, in partnership with Trinity City of Praise and the African American Family Institute, presents a musical play, 10 Boys and One Girl, coming soon to the David A. Strauss Jr. Center for the Performing Arts, 1010 North Mercedes Place, Tampa, Florida, September the 18th, 2021. 2 p.m. matinee show, 7:30 p.m. late show, $25 general seating, VIP seating $50. You don't want to miss this powerful performance, a story of a man and woman raising 10 boys, 1 girl, through trial and obstacles. With resilience, faith, and love, they made it. Directed by Nate Jacobs of the West Coast Black Theater Troupe. Musical director Davon Jameson of Jacksonville, Florida. Tickets can be found at the Strass Center box office. For more information, call 813-229-7827. 10 Boys, 1 Girl, family strong.
Hey, this is Agent Wright, better known as Mr. Clean. You looking for some great barbecues? Come see them 2 brothers in the grill, located at 423 Virginia Street, Charleston, West Virginia. We got ribs, chicken, pulled pork, brisket, collard greens, mac and cheese, baby. Come get some and get you a nice, smooth cigar. 304-550-4431. That is 304-550-4431. Come get some, baby. The Rib Man, mama, the Rib Man.
Every time I hear that, and we want you to support our advertisers. Go out to the Stratz Center, no. But I want to remind our publishers, Daryl and Tammy Johnson, since we can't do a live remote from West Virginia, do you think it's beyond means to have Adrian FedEx some good ribs and chicken, a slab?
I'll take some sausage.
Well, I can eat a slab myself. But anyway, we're back here on a Saturday morning. I want to remind our listening audience. It's raining. The roads are slick. You'll be airplaning before you know it. Please don't speed and drive. Go out to the game today that the Rattlers will win, of course. Go out to that game and have a good time, but don't drink and drive and whatever. And we're gonna, as this thing progresses, Clint, it's gonna be laid out. Fine tune this program. I know City Council next week is gonna be crowded. You have a right to go to your City Council meeting. I never depend on just my representatives who I elect or even didn't elect to represent me. because you have a right to go to that. But
And be
don't
heard-
go in
and be
there
heard,
and be
absolutely.
heard. But don't go in there raising hell and stuff
So,
like that.
yeah, well, that's also one of the dynamics of I think citizenship of engaging with your political leadership in such a way that you get to be heard. And on that note, the silence coming from the Democrats and the African American community about what's happening at the border, and particularly with the darker skinned people, and now it's clear with what's happening with the Haitians coming across. And what I understand, Pete, is after the earthquake in 2010, there was an exodus out of Haiti.
Correct.
Particularly in through, I think, Ecuador, where there is no visa requirement from Haiti. And that a lot of the Haitians were spreading out through South and Central America, finding work. Droves of, I think they said probably in the neighborhood about 250,000 in total entered into Central and South America after the earthquake. Now those people are making a race to try to get into the United States. And we have this situation now, I think it's in Del Rio, Texas.
Oh, yeah.
They're saying that you may have as many as 10,000 Haitians gathered at the border.
Under those bridges and all, children.
But even in some of the smaller cities, that they're even developing a Haitian economy, Haitian restaurants, Haitian beauty salons. There's so many having been there so long, and a sub economy is developing to service them. Your initial thoughts when you heard that. 'Cause I didn't know this was happening. I was surprised.
If you look at, it's been happening for a while. If you look at the film on CNN, Fox, all of the news things, how these Haitians packed under the bridge and all, and America is sending them back. Mexico is, as I told you before we came on air, why should anybody be surprised that with immigration, the darker your skin color, the higher percentage of you going back to
Now, why is that, though?
Well, it's embedded, I don't want to say embedded natural racism, but it's an embedded institutional racism. The people of color that generally come in this country, like the Haitians or the dark-skinned Cubans or whatever, they have no political power. They have no established, the Haitians, for example.
Let me say this, meaning that black folks in America are not going to stand up and fight for the rights of Haitians trying to get in the United States.
And that's caused by two reasons. One, in normal times.
Now, I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying, is that your premise, though?
No, I don't think.
Because you mentioned political power.
I don't think the majority of black community would stand up to support Haitians simply because of a perception over the years and probably through experiences that when Haitians come to America, they really don't like to carve their culture. But
let's do a juxtaposition as opposed to the Cuban or Hispanic political power, which does fight for the immigration of Cubans.
White Cubans.
Now,
You
we
hardly
don't
ever see black Cubans.
Now we don't see that for other Spanish groups trying to immigrate.
No, I remember for a while in the city of Tampa, for an example, you had a population of Nicaraguans and El Salvadorians, which their skin color is a little bit darker than, say, the average.
Right.
Okay, they want to claim that they're white, but the people, as they come into the country, didn't see them as that. They settled in West Tampa, a lot of them and all, and then they established their subculture and all. But they generally don't identify with any power structure. A lot of them, believe it or not, if they identify based on historical mistreatment in their country, they would identify as being Republican versus Democrat, okay? So when I looked at this Haitian thing all this week, as I told you, it didn't surprise me. And remember, they had some that come over a boat and off of West Palm Beach.
35-foot boat, 100 and some odd.
They're going to send them back. I would like to know, and our listeners probably would like to know too, how many people of color, black people, that may come in from Africa, illegally or legally. What's those numbers? What is the number of black Cubans who are given amnesty or whatever the case may be? It's definitely embedded, and you're not going to.
Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and peel that scab back a little bit, Pete, because I think you're skirting around what you're basically implying is that America has a racist approach to its immigration policy against dark-skinned people.
They do it if I should most Haitians when you talk to them, and if their parents and all have come over here, they will tell you that they know coming in, their parents and grandparents have told them coming in that the Haitian community has no choice but to establish their own society real quick and economy, because they're not accepted by African Americans.
But why you keep saying that?
Well, here's the reason.
I said if I'm missing something.
One is because a lot of African Americans, based on what they've seen on TV of Haiti, consider them not as clean.
All right, so let's walk through some of that.
Let's walk through it.
Let's walk through a little bit. Okay, so I'm just gonna put it in turn.
Well, that's the way they say it.
You're a highly educated, sophisticated, gentleman,
Yeah.
and you may be talking over you a little bit over my head. Let me see if I got this right. There has been since Haiti declared its independence, there has been a worldwide European effort to minimize their existence and status in the world, exploit economically and oppress them, and create the view that somehow these are not the kind of people you want to associate with.
Well, yeah, and
hold on,
that started with Papa.
Let me go before that, because they did it so effectively that on the side, the Dominican side of Hispaniola,
correct,
they identify as we're of European and Spanish descent.
That's correct.
Haitian side, they're of African descent
with a little French.
Yeah, but the reality of it is, really it's not that much of a difference. Then you have here in America, it's no different, Pete, than Northerners looking at Southerners. Northerners have always looked down at Southerners,
That's
like get off
correct.
the plantation. So now we have Haitians come over to the United States, and you're saying that then the African Americans kind of look at them as coming from this poor, uneducated,
impoverished, uneducated,
country.
drug
Now watch
dealing.
me, Pete. Now here's the thing that gets me as to why I'm confused about this. Capitalism needs that as an economic tool to fuel itself. We need uneducated, poor people willing to do the most dangerous, dirtiest, scrundiest jobs that there are in a society, because you're more educated and sophisticated and advanced, people won't do those jobs.
Well, yeah,
And that's what I view. And I look at America's, immigration policy. I don't think it's about discrimination and not. It's about economic exploitation versus not.
it's a combination of both. But when you look at the Haitian community in the Tampa Bay area, for an example, there is a distinct design isolation.
Is that any different than the Indian community, though?
Well,
they're not trying to assimilate.
But
They're building their own compounds, their own center. They're not trying to
But they got
assimilate.
to realize that for the races out here in that country, we all black, and we all are considered.
But I don't know
second-class
that
citizens.
I don't know what the Haitians community is doing is any different than any other group. And particularly, remember, they come in, they're visually identifiable because they're dark, and then because they speak a different language.
That's true. They can speak up to 3 languages, and the
Yeah.
way they isolate. But I can tell you what's going to be the saving grace for Black America, including Haitians, Africans, and everything, is our kids. The kids that are, let's say, 18 and under, because of the networking and assimilation and whatever. You see a strong current now in some of the high schools where the kids realize, hey, they're trying to screw us all over, whether we're light-skinned, black, or dark-skinned. You're saying that.
They're not trying to. That is, Pete. It's an economic issue. It is. All that comes down to economics. You get screwed over if you can't afford to have the resources to fight back and protect yourself.
Well, I don't think the kids, when you talk to a lot of kids now, the kids now don't look at it like we do economically. They're looking at it from a more social
Yes,
standpoint.
they are. They have a rude awakening.
I don't necessarily like that, but that's the way. My dad say, hey, all wounds are, if you live in, all wounds are healed and make you a better person.
Right,
And the
right.
wounds will remind you how far you come in spite of yourself.
Look, I'm going to do you a favor,
Yeah.
Pete, because we got to take a break, take our mid-show break. And when we come back, Pete, I'm going to let you take some shots at Joe Biden for some of the crazy stuff going on. We have this strike in Afghanistan that looks like it was a mistake. But keep in mind also, I need you to explain what happened in California. You Republicans need an answer to that. They need to answer what happened in California.
Those people aren't Republicans. I keep telling you that. I keep telling you. So we're going to be going on a break, but remind everybody that this is In Touch Radio News, and you can call in at 813-444-9588.
All right.
You know what it sounds like, a play Cash 3 or Cash 4 number. But anyway, read the newspapers out where everyone is a star, but we do need that barbecue from West Virginia. I just want to say, my brother, FedEx bring it in. So let's go to break. Are you going to the game, Mr. Producer? Okay. So
follow the instructions, P. We'll be right back.
I was looking for the countdown. I was just looking for the countdown. All right, we'll be right back.
Hey, he went through all 10 of his fingers. I was waiting for him to throw his toes up.
This is Kevin from Steppin' With a Vision, where I teach the smooth art of Chicago-style stepping. Join me on September 24th and September 25th as I celebrate 40 years of recovery, and I celebrate my 67th birthday. Yes, 2 nights of dancing and dinner. Workshops on Saturday the 25th if you want to learn to dance at 3315 Lemon Street in Tampa, 912 East Fletcher on Saturday. See you there.
Cancer affects everyone, but minority populations are often hit hardest. Moffitt Cancer Center is working to address the barriers that keep some groups from getting the care they need. African Americans develop cancer at a younger age, have more aggressive cancers, and experience worse outcomes than the general population.
While cancer treatment is evolving with precision medicine, who is being left behind? We know for many decades that some groups experience a greater burden of cancer than others. We can prevent it, we can detect it early. It's very beatable when we find it early. I have worked with cancer patients during their treatment. All cancer patients have courage.
So my treatment was about 18 months. I had 3 cancers and 7 surgeries. But my son told me, like, Mom, you're the strongest person that I know. Moffitt saved my life.
During COVID-19, Moffitt is a safe place for your cancer care. Call now to schedule an appointment.
We back.
Hey, you know what? Let me, OGs, you can exercise your fingers and keep your muscle tone and all by doing a 5, 10, 15, 20-second countdown, all of that. You know what I mean? So while our ladies are doing their exercises and staying in shape, brothers, if you want to get a real handle of things, exercise your fingers, your wrists, and your hands. That's how you get stronger. Now, I say a handle of things. Don't get that misinterpreted like we're going to handle our sisters. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I just want to throw that in.
All right, Pete. So before I jump in and
get us back on track.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Pete did indicate that this is if you do want to call in and be a part of the show, the number is 813-444-9588. Now let's do this. Make that a contact on your phone. Just put In Touch News or straight up the middle, SUTM, and go ahead and put that in your phone. And so when the moment hits you, you can call in. Now, listen, I'm going to tell you some of you callers out there. You probably saying, well, I'm not calling in there because I don't want anybody to know who I am. Well, be somebody else then.
Yeah.
You could be somebody else. You could be. I tell you what I used to do, Pete. I used to call into 970 WFLA.
Mm-hmm.
And I would call with one name and take one position. Then I call back and I pick a fight with myself under another name, taking another position on the show. And just have some fun with it. So if you want to be a part of the discussion, I know people sitting around and you have political commentary. There's nothing we can do but listen to you here. So please consider.
Well, we
giving
don't,
us a
you know,
call.
and we need that because I like to find out from our listening audience throughout the world, and we do have people, Facebook or listening from overseas. How do we, at the end of the day, how do we blend the power of Africans, Native-born Americans, people coming in from Haitian, stuff like that? Look like we got a call. Caller, you want to come in? What say you this morning?
Good morning. Good morning, good attorney, and Mr. Edwards. Y'all having a good show this morning. My comment is that I always said whatever president, whoever was elected president after this Republican came in and made a mess with Trump, he's going to have his hands full.
Absolutely.
Well, hold on for a minute. Let me see. First, is this Carl?
Yeah, this is just Carl.
Okay,
Yeah,
and are you calling because Biden is your guy? Because I remember during the election, before he got to Carolina, you kept telling us Biden was. So are you calling to try to cover Biden because he had such a horrible week this week?
Well, I mean, that's what president does. You're not going to always agree with whatever they do. So, I mean, but being presidential, the type of guy he is, he's the guy that we need in this seat to manage some of this stuff.
Well, hold on. Hold on, Carl. I'm not going to let you get away that easy. I've been sitting waiting on Pete. Now you done jumped in front of me. Let me say this.
Okay.
All right, Biden's your guy. We have yet the defense goes over there. They botch this exit out of Afghanistan, and then they shoot up and blow up a car full of kids. And you want to say he's presidential because he speaks nice and is polite?
We have nothing to do with Afghanistan. Afghanistan is we love Afghanistan there to take care of themselves.
Yeah, well now, but on the way out the door, and there's some Americans left there, we blow up a carload of kids. 10 people, 7 kids. Somebody needs an answer for that.
But it's not like it hasn't happened before.
That's one thing. Okay. We'll just deal with this. I'm just saying that for Carl, who's calling about Biden being presidential, I'm all for presidential, but I like results. What should happen? Because what should we do as a result of that? Just write it off as collateral damage, Carl?
And that's the result of war. It's going to have a collateral damage. Okay, now there's no easy exit. Even if you went over to your neighbor house to defend your neighbor being abused his wife, what happens the next time when he leaves?
Listen, I'm not going down hypotheticals of what happened in my neighbor house. I could care less. I'm talking about what actually happened in Afghanistan.
Okay, well.
All right, I'm okay then. Now, no, let me give you a soft one then, because I know you'll take this debate on this one. How hard did you celebrate the victory in California when the Democrats showed the Republicans what it's going to look like in 22? With the you celebrated that.
I celebrated. I would say I celebrated, but Democrats need that momentum for this 2024 election coming up. They need that momentum.
That was a fake election. Well, the reason why.
Hold on, let's see what Pete got.
Let me tell you why. Those folks, I keep reminding people, the true base of the Republican Party are now in the Independent Party. Okay? These folks like Larry Elder. Now, here's a guy that's a black man that's taking advantage of capitalistic opportunities, radio shows, the whole bit. Carl, you remember what he said? He said openly, well, I think that the slave owners ought to have reparations too. He taking advantage of how he can make money. But true Republicans, if you had a true Republican in that race, it would have been a closer, but it wouldn't have been a recall because communities generally, and Carl, you know this, a lot of communities aren't, I wouldn't say sophisticated enough, but they don't want to get educated enough to how to present a recall, because in different states and cities, recall process is different. So that California thing, he was under the Republican Party, but it doesn't necessarily mean that he was a Republican. It's like a lot of Democrats. I hear it all the time from black Democrats. The Democratic Party this, Democratic Party that. But I can tell you some of the most racist people I've ever ran across were Democrats. And you want to find a real test of how honest a Democrat is, try moving too many of our young people in their community.
All right, so let me, all right, Carl, I just want to get I want to get you, Carl, to explain why did you see what happened in California as a referendum on what's to happen in 2022?
Because with the governor being able to hold his seat in the government as a Democratic governor, that just riled up. It just mentally shows the strength of Democrats because they're just not hyped enough to get to believe that they can hold the Senate. So so it just shows how powerful they are if they get together with this.
But it's the wrong state to judge it from. Well, if you had a recall election, let's say in a state like Maryland, for an example, or a state like Virginia, for an example, or if you go to a state like New York, where Letitia James, now the Attorney General, is trying to get her to run for governor. California has a solid Democratic base. You almost have to really screw it up to overturn the power base of Democrats in California. But if you have a moderate state or something, or even a moderate city, then that's a different. And then you can say it's a vehicle for more empowerment. Carl, I tell you, like I told Clint many times since I've been on this show, in 2022, you're going to have, I believe, looking at historical facts and statistics and all, you will have a 25 to 30% drop off of black voters in those non-presidential
All right,
elections.
so okay, I'm gonna tell Pete. You've been saying that, Pete, since you for months, and I'm gonna tell you why you're wrong again.
DeSantis will win by at least 7 points.
That's way
here.
too much. Now you
I'm
went too
just saying.
far. Flag the tape, Carl. Let me get what else is on your mind this morning, Carl. before I respond to Pete, what's else on your mind this morning, Carl?
Well, I think you guys are doing a good show. I just want to comment that that as a president, I think Biden he's doing a good job, and he just got his hands full.
All right, well, thank you very much, Carl. We appreciate you listening and calling in. And we just say it for the record, Carl is a homer when it comes to Joe Biden. He's been championing Biden when Biden was 5th in line in the race. And so I expect you to come in and try to shore up Biden when he's getting beat up. Now, Pete, California. Let me say this real quick. Okay, California. The Republicans picked California. It's not like the Democrats picked it. The Republicans picked California to make us a run at not even a midterm election, but to create a special election to get rid of the government because they thought they could win on this whole COVID issue. That's really what this was a test of. So the Republicans picked California to make a run at the governor because they thought if we show that his restrictions on COVID had so motivated our Republican base and infuriated Democrats, it would be a model that they could use other places.
It was the wrong.
But that's what they did, though.
Oh,
so
yes,
let's take that. That's not standing alone because Larry Elder represents what kind of candidates the Republicans are going to put forward. Look, you just had the guy in Ohio resign. Why? Because he's not Trumpy enough. So every candidate is going to look like Larry Elder. They're going to say crazy, kooky things that scare people. They're going to be like Marjorie Greene, and you're going to get more of those kinds of people. And that's why I think the Democrats are going to rout the Republicans in the midterm. Now,
we don't vote. Let me tell you something. Larry Elder is.
What do you mean? We just turned up and voted in California.
But not off-year election.
But it's a special election. Listen, he had better numbers in Republican districts than he had in the general election. And the only way you get that, Pete, is Democrats showed up to vote.
You got to look at the type of Republicans being recruited, the extreme right, or those who are sympathetic to extreme right causes that are black. Give you a good example. Larry Elder, number one. Tim Scott, senator from...
No, Tim Scott and Larry Elder are different. Because Tim Scott runs before Trump. Larry Elder...
But Tim Scott got to get reelected, so he's going extreme right now.
But he doesn't have to go. He doesn't have to.
But it's more money for him. It's more powerful if he takes the tack that Republicans, the way they're recruiting Hispanic and African Americans.
But leave him where he is.
Byron Donald and don't forget the brother down there in Fort Myers who purports himself to be understanding of the civil rights history and all like that. But these guys are all about them.
But let's look at the facts. We just had Gonzalez in Ohio, a Republican rising star, say, you know what? Not that I don't think I can win. I don't want the hassle. What you're having is more and more, Pete, good Republicans, sound Republicans, principled Republicans saying, I don't want to be associated with this Republican Party. What that does is it leaves more people like Larry Elder to emerge as the leadership.
Well, those guys don't want the bloodshed on their hands. I mean, it is obvious. I don't care how we try to sugarcoat it all. It is obvious that this country is on the path to collapsing as it is today.
I think the Republican Party, I think Democrats are fine.
No.
I think
the
Democrats
country
are
as
fine.
a whole, the country as a whole is on its way to a total collapse. You see it. You can, I mean, I saw somewhere now they want to come back, and they want to. There's a group, a movement saying, "Hey, we made a mistake in allowing mixed marriages." Really?
But
So,
okay,
yeah,
Pete,
so,
listen. Watch me, Pete. Every revolution has been about money. Every
this
revolution.
This one won't be.
There's no other reason. There's no other because it will not be. There has never been a revolution that has not been based in economics.
This is the first time, because when you talk about economics, you hope you would say that you have a group that you can instill to do the work that slaves did and all. This revolution is coming unless they utilize illegal immigrants to pick up the economic slack as far as the dirty
And
work
that's
and all.
exactly what we've done that repeatedly.
But you're not going to be able to do it this time.
If you think about the turn of the century when America was in turmoil, what they do? Open the floodgates, bring in poor Europeans, escaping the potato famines and all that stuff in Europe, let them in.
It's not going to happen this time. The kids won't let that happen. I think we're headed for, we really are. What I'm afraid of is a real violent switch over. But you can see it coming.
You need to switch to another type of government system.
It's already here.
All right, let's do this. We're going to take this last break, Pete. I'm going to let you finish on a high note and take some shots at Joe Biden's domestic plan. And tell me whether these Democrats who are going to stop him, or is Manchin and Sinema and all the other folks going to go along with what needs to be done to get that bill passed. We're going to take this last break, and we come back. I'm going to let you tell me what's really going on in the Democratic Party.
Yeah, my boy got a nondescript hooded jersey on today, so I guess he
ain't giving us nothing.
That's why you come neutral in politics. Hey, you got to get on the inside of my thinking, because on the outside everything looks the same.
We'll be right back, y'all.
Just what.
Excuse me, but do this station keep you in touch?
A lot.
How do you like the music?
A lot.
Do they play your favorite songs?
A lot.
And in just 2 words, how do you like the station?
A lot.
There you have it, folks. The moral of the story is our listeners like us
A lot.
in touching you 24/7 on the World Wide Web. We're In Touch Radio.
Hi, this is Angela Birdsong, and during the week, I'm affectionately known as the Medicare lady. Do not try to navigate Medicare without me. Please call me at 813-476-4837. I also do life insurance, and I will help people who are Medicare Medicaid. Once again, 813-476-4837. 4837. Hi, this is Angela Birdsong with Tampa Bay Politics. And not only can you catch us on InTouchNews.com every Wednesday at 11 a.m., we now have a website at TampaBayPoliticsPodcast.com. We are on Apple, Google, Spotify, and Stitcher, which you can log in at any time and listen to Tampa Bay Politics.
All right, we're back live for the last segment of the show. This is In Touch News Radio, reality radio where everybody can be a star. My name is Clinton Paris. I'm one of the co-hosts here with none other than Sweet Pete Edwards, trying to keep it real. You know, he's challenging my OG-ness as we sit here in studio. You're trying to keep up with Pete, who's just a wealth of information. Okay, Pete, so I figured I'd be nice because I came in a little animated because FAMU and USF are playing today, and I got my daughter in town, and we got the family. We can go out and do some tailgating.
Oh, yeah.
Have a good time
and
at
let
the
me know
game.
when I tailgate. I'm going to come by there because I want to make sure as your daughter, the rattler, after we strike here, she goes back to Tallahassee shouting about the victory we got today and shouting about the check that she's taking back from her dad today.
Now,
you know you got to do that. You know,
you're right.
I mean, brothers,
Man,
I tell brothers.
all in my pocket.
I
right
tell
about
brothers
now,
all the
man.
time, when you have your kids home from college for a break, don't run from them.
Yeah.
Take that opportunity to share some old school wisdom and let them know that you're moderate too. And then don't wait for them to ask you or tell you what they need. You ask them.
Yeah.
And so whatever your budget allows, and you know, try to make that work. Put a little money in their pocket, but also stop by the Sam's or whatever you want.
So we,
and you know,
I tell you one of the things. First, I was elated to get to drive and pick her up, Pete, because I think I said this earlier in the show. Some chemistry tutor decides to have a 5 o'clock tutoring session for freshmen on Friday on a away game weekend, and so she didn't have a ride to come to Tampa. She wanted to come to the game. I said, you go to tutoring. I will drive up there at 7, 8 o'clock at night, pick you up, and bring you back to Tampa, and we'll get you back up there on Sunday. But my wife was saying, well, we could get her on the red bus and put her on the bus and get her down here.
Or Flex or whatever.
I said, though, I want to spend some time in the car. And I tell you, Pete, we partied so hard coming back. We put on the several different Mary J. Blige Spotify station and a Mariah Carey station and Janet Jackson. We sang songs and talked about stuff, and we just had a good time.
And you know what? I would tell kids all the time, listen, when you go to college, you got those kind of professors. They pull that. That's a standard trick that professors use on. We used to see it when FAMU, for an example, would go play Tennessee State or something on the road or Southern. So one of the best things I would tell during the football season, take your toughest classes on Tuesday and Thursday.
Well, they don't. Freshmen though they punish them.
Yeah,
right?
they punish.
And let me say, for those who are watching online, I know you see my USF shirt, my FAMU hat. I'm just representing excellence in education today. Pete's got on the children's board.
And my Sean John.
All right, Pete. All right. So before we get out of here, let's just nudge along this thing about Joe Biden and this his domestic agenda real quick. You only got a few minutes left. Are the moderate Democrats, Joe Manchin and some of the other folks, gonna be able to come together with the more progressives and get this thing passed?
No, the progressives are doing conservative Democrats and moderate Republicans, which Joe Biden is. They actually, in the long run, they're doing the majority of the people who are center right in this country, just center right. They're doing us a favor. When I look at the brother from Jamal Bauman or whatever from New York, when I look at AOC and some of those progressives, even when I look at the lady from St. Louis, I understand her story about being homeless, Cori Bush or whatever.
Right.
But you know what their goal is? Pat themselves on the back.
But they'll just bark. The bite is Joe Manchin. They're barking. Joe Manchin is in the club.
Yeah.
He's the one that if they can handle Joe Manchin, who's on the moderate side of this, I'm not worried about the AOCs and those folks. They're going to fall in line.
Yeah, I think you better be worried because I know next week in the House they vote for the infrastructure bill that was passed by the Senate.
Right.
And they're going to vote for it separate. Don't be surprised, not because Republicans voting it down. That's a given. But don't be surprised that it's defeated because of the progressives like AOC.
But what about Joe Manchin? I think the problem is
when that second part comes in, it was. I don't think the idea was never 3.5 million.
Right.
I think the idea all the way has been around.
And that's big.
Yeah, I think it's all the way been around 1.5 or 2 trillion. One of the things that may help that second part is because of conservative women voters and independent women voters who are suffering from a lack of daycare and that kind of stuff. So they'll come in with around 2 trillion because these are side can't afford. When you lose women voters, that's troubling. That's what cost Andrew Gillum the Florida election. When he lost a percentage, I think it was 17%, 18% of black women voters on the school choice and all like that, that sunk him. So my position has always been, and you know I've ran for office before, been appointed by 2 governors or 3, I don't know. I serve where I can to make a difference, so it doesn't matter which governor appointment. But when you look at that issue coming into this election and you look at all the stuff that they want to put in this new bill, and I talk to women voters, they're looking for things that's going to make them stronger, to protect their household, to protect their kids, to have an opportunity to move up and all. They want to get like community college want to be.
Okay, but Pete, those sound like great Democratic voting issues.
No, they're not all Democratic. They're not.
You don't think child care is
that's a universal
now
issue.
the choice piece is a false. That's a false narrative.
That's true. Always has been. I tell people that, but we don't have the courage to admit.
That's a false
But
narrative.
child care affects rural and suburban and the ring around suburban.
But you have to have experienced that to understand that. That listen, the reason I'm not advancing is my kids are not. Someone else is not in a position to help my kids. But in fact, all my experience has been one of I take care of my kids and my family and people. I don't even think of daycare as a liberator.
Well, things have changed. Producer, here's what when I speak to young people, especially brothers. Listen, the law says you're an adult at 18. The black man rule says you prepare as if you're an adult at 16. You get we talked about Foursquare. And these are my closing comments. For us, for black kids, in particular black males coming up to carry the load for us, common sense education, formal education, street sense education, and self-taught education. That's it. And so our goal should be, even with the sisters, once they get past all the sorority stuff and all that foolishness, you got to have that same four-corner, Foursquare thing. If you have less than 3 of those, you're in trouble. So my responsibility is, whether we agree with everything, whether we like the pain of exposing stuff and all, that's how you get the common sense.
Okay, now, but in this situation that we're dealing with the current bill as it stands, the moderates, I think, are the ones who are not applying that, because on that moderate side, you only have old white men. On the progressive side, you've got those younger women who identify with the issues that you're talking about. And Pete, that's why they're going to come along.
But they're going to come along with the first part, the infrastructure. But I think on the second one, that 3.5, I think you're going to look at it around $2 trillion.
But in Congress, it's monopoly money. It's not real money.
That's true. That's why
so that number is like,
there's an article in the CNN News online that talks about the fakeness of this debt ceiling. You got to read it, listening on it. It lays it out. But our job, all of us, particularly those who vote, you have to take a look at how you leave the future, what you leave them to work with. And I think when you talk about child care and all like that, that's where I think we got to, even where sisters have to really step up during off-year elections. Black sisters that are involved in the Democrat or whatever.
Well, I'm not going to. But two things. When you can't first, as a card-carrying Republican, I won't let you call out my sister Democrats. You cannot
we'll
demand.
See.
You can call out the sister Republicans, but I'm not going to let you get away with calling out my sister.
Not going to vote.
And I'm not going to let you give the brothers a pass. They're the most unreliable group. Black women have carried the black family and the Democratic Party for decades. I'm not letting you get away with not calling the brothers.
They isolate the brothers from the
Democratic Party. Let's see.
All right, so don't forget next week we want to see, can you get Daryl and Tammy to help us out with this FedEx thing of
about your ribs.
Two brothers about my ribs and all. Go out to the game today. Have a good time.
Be safe.
Milton won last night, 22-0 over Blake. But I understand the crime problem was reduced. Now some people complain about the heavy influence of law enforcement. But you cannot go to games raising hell, carrying guns, knocking over old people and that kind of stuff.
We're not going to have that.
You can't
and
have
I tell you that will not be tolerated at Raymond James Stadium today. Everybody have a good time.
And if I can find some free food, trust me, I will do it. And Daryl, one other thing, my brother, I'm not a Kappa, but if you remember, if you can help a non-frat brother out by leaving some donuts, I don't care if they shaped like a K. Just next week for us, I certainly appreciate it. And until then, you know what? I feel like singing an old song.
We'll hold on that note, Pete. We'll let you sing right after we go off the air. Everybody, take care. We'll see you back next week.
All right, and strike, and strike again. See you next week, everybody. Bye-bye.
Are you going to the game? No. Yeah, there's a couple tailgates.
Are we off
on
there?
Facebook? We down?
We off there?
We down. Bye.